Hello.
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 Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
Hello. Welcome to another weekly show of Cloud Native Weekly, episode 13. That's not your
hmm
signature as a follow up to the previous show. Um, yeah, welcome everyone. And I just got a
welcome.
message on my phone that Richard Hooper is live on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yes, I am.
So
Woo.
Are
I
we
guess
are we also live on Twitter? I have no idea.
Oh, we should be.
we
I should have
are
checked that, to
live
be
on,
fair.
So,
I don't know,
so
we are
for
live
anybody
on Twitter,
wondering,
LinkedIn.
we tried to add some more streaming destinations this week. So we're streaming to all of our individual Twitter profiles. So it's an experiment. So we'll see what happens.
I can see us live on Twitter on mine, so I think we're good.
Hi,
Woo,
Twitter.
Hello, Twitter.
Hi,
hello.
LinkedIn.
We pretty much just clicked everything and see where it ends up. But I think
Yeah.
people are finding us, or you at least, on LinkedIn, Richard, because hello.
Ah, nice. Hello.
So
Nice to see you.
it's working. It is
That was
working.
good.
So, well, because we only got 30 minutes, or we always want to stay a little bit below 30 minutes, let's get
hmm
started. How's the week been, Richard?
Yeah, good. Done some open telemetry work, which is nice. Sending it off to Azure App Insights with Log Analytics backend. Was looking at seeing if they had a Azure blob storage, but they don't. They have an S3 one, so hopefully one day that's going to get done. There's like some work being done, but they need some help. So if anyone wants to help them, go check out their repo. That would be awesome. Apart from that, it's just been some Kubernetes troubleshooting, checking updates and stuff like that. Looking for ways to ensure your Helm charts are always up to date. Karl has just dropped off
I,
somewhere. He's probably
I
lost
think I know
internet
what
again.
happened.
Yeah, one of his kids has gone and switched off the router or something, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Apart from that,
Sounds
it's
like a good week.
yeah, been about that. How about you?
Well, I'm officially on holiday leave, so I did
Nice.
not do a lot. No, I did a lot of tech stuff. I've been playing with, the container image signing that we talked about last week. I've been going through the landscape, the CNCF landscape, and all the other third parties that you can leverage for container signing and container sign verification.
hmm
It's a very big world. It's a lot of different technologies, and it's the kind of thing where I get lost in. You think, oh, I'll do this for 30 minutes, and then I'll go for lunch. But then 3 hours later, and you're still digging into the world of container image signing. So that's it's pretty cool. Other than that, studying for my CKA because I promised I want to get it rather sooner than later. I know that you are still sending me WhatsApp messages. Hey, how's it going? So
yeah,
yeah.
I'll get you there. Don't
And,
worry.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get there. I'm actually looking forward to it. What I've mainly been doing, and I think that's a good recommendation for anyone wanting to get CKA. I mean, there's a time constraint. You have to do a lot. From what I understood, you want to get it done in time. So, you know, you want to get those commands in. You want to be very, very we want to have the confidence that you can type them fairly quickly. So I
Yep.
got rid of all my shortcuts. Normally instead of doing kubectl, I've got like a shortcut going K. So I do K get parts. Now I just removed everything, just to fully understand and debug everything, so that I'm ready for the certification. I think that's the biggest thing I need to do.
Awesome.
See some messages coming in the chat
Yeah.
from Batuan. Hello, and you were saying as one of the fab of cosine, I'd like to see the difference between the two. Yes, so cosine, maybe we could do a kind of like a showdown at some point. There's
Yeah, that
cosine,
could
you've
be
got
good.
Notary, you've got so many different services. The biggest challenge is that not every service, not every solution, cooperates that well with each other. So you have to find, your sweet spot, the best
Yep.
combination of what you want to use.
Hey,
So yeah, in
Karl.
the future, maybe we could do kind of showdown. Hey, Karl, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
You want to elaborate on what happened?
Can't even blame the kids this time.
No.
So we live we live in a rented house, so we have a card meter thing for the electricity, and I forgot to put credit in it, and it went off.
Wow.
What can you do that
Love
with
it.
an app, or is that how does that work?
Yes, It literally just do it on your phone, and
So hold on. How does that work? You have to put credits in the electricity
Yeah.
meter, so you get.
So the general
It's
idea.
not pay per use then. It's like pay per credit.
So because I rent my house, the landlords don't want to be saddled with big bills and stuff if somebody moves out, so they use like credit meters. At least mine does anyway. And definitely forgot.
I could just picture you running downstairs with a bag of pound coins, just feeding the meter quickly.
quick. No, I mean it's not even that. I mean it's not even that complicated. You have to pay on the app and enter a code into the meter, and that's it. But yeah,
very nice.
Definitely. I forget to do that regularly. So anyway.
All right.
Sorry
So we
about
just
that,
went
everybody.
through our weeks. How's your week been?
My week's been okay. I was off Thursday, Friday last week, and then Monday, so I had a nice 5-day weekend. And then this week has been mostly about Terraform and bits and pieces. Not too much cloud native, although we have been talking, myself and a couple of folks in the community, about getting back on the CKA study wagon. So
Good.
Yep, that'll be happening this week, and that'll probably mean 5 a.m. starts for studying for the next little while, because that'll be the only time I can get it guaranteed. Oh, there's the wife. Hello, dear.
Love it.
Yes, I had taken responsibility. I don't have many jobs around here, which makes it even worse. So,
Disgraceful
Can we,
behavior.
from this message, can we conclude that sometimes you don't take responsibility for stuff?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and let's leave it there. Moving on.
All right. I see a lot of chatter in chat. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, veteran. Welcome, Jerome. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I think it's time
Great
for
to
some
see
news.
you all. Thanks for joining.
All right. The news. Who's going to kick it off? I've been on holiday. I did not read up on a lot.
Let me bring the first one up then. So
I know this one.
You know this one? KubeCost Cloud, which is like a SaaS product, has gone GA. So KubeCost, for people who don't know, is a way to sort of understand the cost of your Kubernetes cluster. What this tool product does is put a small lightweight agent on your clusters. It could be cloud clusters or on-premise clusters. It sends all this data up to the KubeCost system, a SaaS product, and then you can see a nice sort of view of all your costs inside your cluster. So it's really cool to see that they've got this SaaS product, so you don't always have to run the dashboard locally, and it's quite nice to see.
Do we know if this has got like multi-cluster support?
I've not
checked
gone
this.
too far, but I believe as it's being a SaaS product, it would probably have that. But that's some good thoughts. We should probably check that, because that could
Check
come in
that
very
out.
handy. For sure. And then the next news one is Gateway API v8.0.8.0 is now introducing service mesh support, which is quite cool to see. So for the people who don't know, Gateway API is like the replacement for Ingress. So it can do your north-south traffic. But with this new feature, it can help do your east-west traffic as well. So it's good to see Gateway API and service meshes coming together. I think we're going to see quite a lot of cool things coming out of this, which will be good, especially at KubeCon by the looks of the schedule, which we'll talk about in a bit. What's next on the news?
Harbor,
that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, Harbor. So what is Harbor?
It's a container registry.
It is.
Yeah,
And basically a container registry. So it's added some new features like the Harbor Security Hub, which will give you, reading from the documents, valuable security insights. It gets scanned, unscanned artifacts, and it even identifies like dangerous CVEs and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're a Harbor user, that sounds like an awesome update.
Kind of like what ACR can do.
Yeah. Except Harbor runs locally on your clusters rather than in a cloud provider.
So it's a run your own, control your own sort of container registry, right?
Yeah. So the next one, I just mentioned it a second ago, was the schedule for KubeCon, Clarineticon North America has gone live. Go check it out. There's so many sessions on there. I've picked a few already, and there's going to be one about Nginx Ingress and talking about Gateway API support, so their version 2.0 of it, which will be awesome. So I'm excited to see that session for sure. And so many good sessions. I'm not sure how I'm going to pick any. But yeah, I'm sure we will.
But you're going.
Oh yes, I'm going. Yep, cannot wait.
Flights booked,
gonna
hotel
be-
booked.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of an adventure because the wife decided to book a comedy show in Belfast the weekend before KubeCon. So now I'm flying from Newcastle to Belfast, doing the show, then getting to Dublin by a coach, and then flying from Dublin to Chicago, and then flying back from Chicago to Dublin to Newcastle. So yeah, it's going to be fun. So I arrive sometime on the Sunday, so it should be nice. And then we can go and see KubeCon and hopefully see some pre-days. I believe Azure's got one, which looks good. So I'll be going to that. Yeah.
And get some swag.
Yes, get some swag.
Bring an extra bag.
Collect the t-shirts.
Yeah. Take a massive suitcase, which is going to be fun. So I have to drag that all around Belfast, so that'll be nice fun. And then we got a couple more pieces of news. Amazon VPC CNI now supports Kubernetes network policies, which is good to see. I was shocked that it didn't support it from the beginning.
Yeah,
but
I was about to say, did it not support it already if it was just like a CNI implementation?
But no, it does, so that's good. Sounds like there's going to be quite a bit of work going on with the CNI to make it even better, according to people on Twitter. So it's good to keep an eye on that if you're using that. And our last bit of news today kind of sort of goes with what we were talking about last week. And but the Notary product has got a major new release. I've not actually read much about the new release, but it sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's about Notary V1. That's important to know. There's a Notary V1 and Notary V2. They are different projects. We normally use Notary V1, but a lot of open source projects and CNCF projects are working on supporting Notary V2. This is a major release for Notary V1.
Awesome. Cool.
Important distinction.
Nice.
All right. I think we're going to get, we are at a point where we're going to look at 10 minutes tech, and then hopefully Karl's got enough credit in his energy meter, so we'll make the last 10 minutes. Let's go.
Awesome.
He's
still here.
That's good.
Still here.
You're going to hear this for a very long time.
Yeah, got to add that to the pre-show checks. I was sat here thinking when we were prepping for the show, I wonder should I check that? Nah, I'll be okay.
I think we've also had, I think it was about a year ago in a different show, I think it was Intercept Insights, where your Windows update started halfway.
Yep. Tech problems.
Fun times.
Did it happen twice in that show or just the once? Anyway, let's do tech instead of my tech failures.
All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Cool.
Which button do I click? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Richard, the hero. All right, so before we start, if you want this absolute beast of an Oh My Posh theme, it's on the Oh My Posh website. It's the Pixel Robots theme. So Pixel Robots.
You just changed the colors a bit.
I changed the colors of this. I changed this one to fit the Cloud Native Weekly thing. Other than that, this is the default. It supports AWS. It supports Azure. So
and that's what you're signed into Azure and AWS at the same time there, right?
Yeah,
yep.
I'm signed.
Kubernetes.
I'm signed into this subscription, MVP subscription. I am connected to EU Central -1 in AWS, and I am connected to my AKS West H01-WE
Nice.
cluster.
And if you were using PowerShell, not just the Azure CLI, you'd have another little block come up to tell you you're using which Azure subscription you're connected to via PowerShell. So it's really cool. Makes
And
my life so much easier.
it's literally out of the box. You install OMAPosh, you grab. I think you still need to get the what is it? The icons, the
the nerd font.
the
Nerd fonts. Yeah.
Need to get that one. All right, so we're going to talk about checking our container images and whether they are properly signed. So for that, I'm using Connoisseur. There's alternatives like OPA Gatekeeper. There's a lot of different admission controllers out there. But then the question is, where is your cluster running? Is it Azure Kubernetes Service? Is it on GKE? Is it? They all work a bit different. Like I said, start of this show, I've been playing a lot with container image signing, the verification, the validation, and setting up the whole thing. And I found that there are a lot of different products out there that some work together really well, some don't. The biggest challenge is there is not really an end-to-end description or post, about this is where you start and this is where you end up, and now you've got the most awesome enterprise configuration. So I learned a lot from that, and I ended up with going with Connoisseur as an admission controller. And they also have some very nice documentation, even though this really looks like a retro kind of image, like Richard said.
Yeah.
But it does describe the process very well. What we want is we want our developers to write some code. We want them to create a Docker file, or we want to containerize it. We have the container image that needs to be pushed to an image registry, like Harbor, ACR, Docker Hub, whatever you want to use. You want to make sure that that container image is signed by someone you trust. And then before you run it on your container orchestrator, whether that's Kubernetes or something else, we're going with Kubernetes. You want Kubernetes to check, is that container image signed? Do I trust it? Can that run on my cluster? Maybe you want to do that per namespace. Maybe you want to do that for the whole cluster. You can do it per repository. There's a lot of different levels of granularity that you can go through. But in the end, what you want to do, once a configuration is being admitted into Kubernetes, you want the admission controller to check, is this an image that I trust? Is it signed? Does it have the right digest? Yes, then you can run it on the cluster. The demo is fairly simple. Setting the whole thing up end to end is a lot of work. This is already the second show that we're talking about. Today, we're just going to look at, can we do that verification process? For that, we're using Connoisseur. It's an open source project. If you have, a different cluster or you want to use Gatekeeper, you can use that as well. It does require some custom verification. The challenges that we've had on Azure Kubernetes Service is when you use the Azure Policy add-on, it installs Gatekeeper, which you need as an admission controller, but then it doesn't come with the right configuration to do the external data. I think it's the external data property, top of my head. Where you want to call something external to verify, hey, is that signature trusted? It doesn't have that, so you have to get rid of the Azure Policy add-on, then install Gatekeeper manually, and then you can go from there. But yeah, that kind of breaks the integration with Azure Policy. So there's some work to be done there, which is fine, but it's very, very promising. I was just chatting with you guys yesterday, like, hey, what if you could configure all of this just from Azure Policy? That would be very powerful. That would be brilliant. In your Azure Policy configuration, you could set like, hey, these are the images that these are the signatures that I trust. This is the public root key, or this is the public key. These I trust, can be done in this namespace, and it's coming from ACR or whatever. So what I've done is I've set up Connoisseur, just installed it in the cluster. And it's very, very easy to configure, because all you need to do to get started, and this is what I really like about Connoisseur. You just clone the repository, you just add the repo, or however you want to do it. You deploy it, it installs, and you're already good to go. It's there. You've got the admission controller set up, but then you get to play with the configuration. And if we we're going to take a look. What Connoisseur does is it works with what we call validators. So if I open up the values file, and I think, is it big enough? Should be big enough.
Zoom in a tiny bit. There we go.
Or,
That's better.
all right, good. So this is just a regular values file for Helm. What you can see here is, other than the default things that you always want to configure for your pods and your deployments, you can configure what we call validators. So the validators are essentially the endpoints you talk to that you can use to validate whether you trust that image, whether the signature, hey, is that my signature, or that's not your signature. That's where you do the verification. That's what the validators are for. By default, it will configure notary.docker.io. Remember Notary, we used that last week. And this is just a Docker Hub configuration. And what you can see here, and before we move on, Connoisseur was made by Secure Systems Engineering. That's where the website is. That's also where the GitHub repo is, which is actively maintained. So what you want to do is, hey, I've got this validator, Docker Hub Basics, and I name it Docker Official. This is the public key that I use for verification. For the other repo, this is the public key. If you want to do Azure Container Registry, which is in the end what you want to do, there's a couple of things you need to do. First, what you need to do is configure content trust on ACR. Because what happens in the backend with Notary and Connoisseur and Cosign does it a bit differently. But what it does is use Docker Content Trust. So you need to enable that on your ACR. Once you are about to do that, you will get a message, hey, you do need a premium ACR, Azure Container Registry, to do that. But then again, I think, if you're going to do this kind of stuff, which is you could almost say it's like enterprise level security, this is a very good practice. You probably want to invest in a premium Azure Container Registry anyway.
Yeah, and the premium ACR isn't even all that expensive per month, is it?
No, and I think at top of my head,
$50 or something off the top of my head, or something, isn't it?
Yeah, and you get the geo replication as well, I think.
Yeah,
but that's just assumption. I think you do get that. So what you need to do is do some specific parameters. You need to set is ACR true. You need to get your public key, your public key that you're going to use, for verification, and you need a service principal with a username, password, app ID, the key, and then put that in. Now that's a very nice example, but if you were doing this in production, then you want to use something like Key Vault to grab that secret from. So there's some things you want to change. But this is what you get out of the box, this values file. And what I really appreciate is that there's a lot of documentation here on how to go about using the certificates. There's documentation on how to get the certificates. That's in the repository of Connoisseur. And then you can set up your policies, like what am I going to accept? What kind of patterns am I going to accept? Do I want to do it for a specific namespace? Do I, can go above and beyond? But that's what you configure in the values file. Then you install it or you upgrade it with your new configuration, and you're good to go.
Nice.
Do keep in mind that once you start playing with this kind of stuff, you're configuring your admission controller. So if you kind of screw this up, there's not much going to be deployed to your cluster anymore. So there's, it's important that you are, even though it's very nice and easy to get started, you want to be careful once you start maintaining this, because it's a very important part of your cluster. If you break it, you break the cluster, essentially. So you don't want that.
No, definitely not. Could you just imagine if you did that? Just redeploy it.
The thing is that, once you install something like Connoisseur and you set up your patterns and you set up your keys. So if you mess up the key, you copy paste the wrong thing, or you name it incorrectly, or you make a typo, or you mess up a policy or a pattern that you configured, that means, anything that doesn't comply with the policy cannot be deployed to the cluster. So that's, on the other hand, that's a very good thing, right? Because if you're saying, all right, this is the ACR that I trust, and I trust this specific repository within my container registry, if someone goes about and adds, pushes a new container into a new repository with a different tag that you don't know about, you can be pretty sure that will never deploy unless you update your admission controller. So that's very good to know. Another thing is that Connoisseur is able to do mutations. So upon deployment, it cannot just allow or deny. It can also mutate, or kind of what Azure Policy does with the append configuration. Modify the configuration before the deployment. That's a pretty powerful thing for something that has not been around for so many years, but it has been developed fairly quickly. Lots of features being added. If we go to the overview, and I realize we're going to get on time, but I'll start with the demo. Well, this is part of the demo. You can see that it supports Notary v1, Docker Content Trust. Docker Content Trust is what you also enable on ACR by configuring Content Trust. You have 6-store and cosign. Notary v2 is planned, and it's lots of stuff going on here.
This is a NCF project, is it? Is it incubating or?
Good question. I have not checked.
I'll check now.
I was going to say, do I open a new tab and check it?
No, it's okay.
No, I did see, I came across Connoisseur when I was just Googling and researching stuff because I couldn't get some things to work because there's like 5 or 6 bits and pieces that you need to get working in your cluster. They don't always cooperate and integrate that well. So when I was looking at some issues that other people log, I was like, okay, so how do I solve this? And then someone mentioned, people are working on Connoisseur as a product that solves a lot of this. And that's how I came up with it. And I really like the name as well. Connoisseur, it's French for someone who knows or knower, or that's the English translation for it. So it is about knowing the signature. It's about learning which signature is there and then validate it and verify it before deployment. So the way this works, and then we're going to open up a terminal. We've got that here. There's different ways you can configure Connoisseur. You install it with Helm. There's also different parameters, like it does. It launches a webhook, an external webhook, when you admit something, because it wants to check with ACR or with an external repository, is that a valid signature? I've seen scenarios where it times out, it gave an error, but then you can configure that in your Helm chart to automatically restart or always be online, or there's some kind of thing going on there. But there's lots of things you can configure. So what we're first going to do, and we're going by the public example, is to just test what's going on if I'm going to deploy a unsigned image, because the people at Secure Systems Engineering have a repository, a Docker Hub repository, and what we're going to do is run this image. And it's an unsigned image. If we go to the image, it's an unsigned image. It doesn't have the right digest, so it should not deploy to your cluster. And if we run it, we'll see what's happening. And you can see error from server admission webhook, denied the request, unable to find signed digest for the image, unsigned image. So that image is not signed correctly. It might even be signed, but it might not have the right signature. It's just never going to deploy. Now, if we go back to our example in the values file where we see, let me see it here, we have a validator for docker.io, this one. And if we're just going to deploy a signed image from docker.io, if I copy paste correctly, there we go. You can see that it does run, because this is a signed image running on docker.io, which we trust. And then we try this one again. It's just not going to deploy. We don't trust it. We're going to do it. That's a very simple way that the admission controller works. Now, this is very simple to demo, as in it's just a command, see if you can launch the image or you can launch the container based on that image. the biggest challenge here is getting all the products up and running using Notary to sign your image, then have the Docker Content Trust, have the right certificates in your values file, have it all up and running in your cluster. But then once it's there, is a very solid configuration. It just works out of the box like that if you do it well.
Very cool.
And it's then the end goal. If we go back to the Connoisseur website where we had that very, very nice image, this one in the end where you want to get to is do that all from your pipeline. Developer pushes a new image, you run the security checks, you do the scans. Do you trust it? Is it all valid? Yes. You sign the image. Then you have maybe something like GitOps, reconciling the configuration from a repo and then going, all right, yeah, it was all signed, pipeline works, everything is up and running in the cluster. Now that was my challenge for the past couple of days, working on some blog posts on that, because you probably need like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 posts to really demo this and go from zero to hero, if you will, because it's a lot of moving parts. But I do see, from a security perspective, we should invest in this, in the future. We should do it more and more. If you do it well, you can even, easily do it for smaller deployments, smaller clusters. It's a good practice that you should probably want to do from the start. And I'm saying from the start, because if you already have loads of containers running with loads of different images and from registries that you have no idea about, implementing this will cause a major breaking change. So you don't want to do that. That's when you need to start investing time. But if you do it from the start and you automate it, you build the pipeline, I'm very confident that everyone should be able to use this.
Nice. That's very cool. So whilst you were talking, I was Googling, and I don't believe it is part of the CNCF landscape yet.
Ooh.
So it'll be interesting to see if it does or not, because it clearly is a good tool that fits the bill. So
is it open source? What license? I'm scared to ask. Is on the repository in GitHub.
What license?
It is Apache 2.0.
Oh, so
I think maybe it will become. Maybe they will file for that. I have no idea. It is clearly in competition with OPA Gatekeeper, which is Gatekeeper can do a lot more. This is really focused on the admission part and the signing verification. For me, I do a lot of Azure Kubernetes Service. I'd like to see some new features in OPA Gatekeeper and the Azure Policy add-on. That will probably be my go-to technology. But then again, you don't always have Azure Kubernetes Service.
Nope.
So it's there's different ways to go about this. But I got really excited about this because it works out of the box. It's documented very well, and there's a lot of buttons you can turn to play with.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
It looks very powerful.
Looking forward to those blog posts.
Yeah, definitely share them here. All right, that was my brief demo, and I see I already talked about it for 20 minutes, which
nice.
It happens when I get excited about it. Yeah.
Are we changing the name of the segment to 20 minutes in tech?
No, we want to stick to 10.
Yeah, most of the time 10. If not,
most of the time we make it.
Yeah. So, what are we talking about next week?
Could be Cilium. Did you ever reach out to your contacts at Cilium, Karl?
No, I need to do that.
And put money on the meter.
Yeah, in advance of next week, I will make sure that we don't do a repeat, and I'll reach out to someone at Cilium and see if they want to come on and talk to us. Failing that, we can probably just do a demo on a component of Cilium, because I think we need about 10 or 15 episodes just to cover Cilium in its entirety. So,
yes, for sure.
Which is that's fine. I mean, we can take different. I mean, we've seen. I think we demoed it. Well, not really demoed it. I think a couple of shows ago. Was it the labs? Yeah,
Yeah,
the labs.
Yeah,
we showed the labs. I mean, just by that, you can. Every single button is a different episode, probably.
Pretty much. Yep. And there's a good number of those. I'm still working my way through them. But
Nice.
I should stop being distracted by those and study from a CKA, right?
Definitely. But I'm sure they will help in a way because you're typing commands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As long as I don't try to use Cilium network policies in the exam, then we'll be okay.
Yeah.
for sure.
All right.
Cool.
That
Awesome.
brings us to the end of our show.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a good one
Yes.
again.
Yeah. Hopefully next week we'll push it out to all of these other endpoints as well. So Twitter and LinkedIn or X
All of
now,
the
sorry,
places.
not Twitter. Yeah.
X.
And anywhere else we can find, we'll try and check it there as well.
Anywhere else that will take us talking nonsense for 30
We'll
minutes.
spam everyone. Yeah.
All right. Let's do that.
Awesome.
Well, enjoy the rest of your week. Looking forward to next week. Everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions or you want to talk about a specific subject or you want us to talk about something specific, let us know. We're always open to new stuff. And if we don't know
Yeah.
about it, we'll figure it out as we go along.
We can
Yeah.
Google. It's fine.
We
can
could always do
Google.
a learn live with us on a subject maybe one time, which could be
Yeah,
clever.
That'd be
that'd be
nice. Figure it out and break stuff live.
Yes.
That'd be nice.
Definitely.
All right.
Sounds good.
Right.
Enjoy your week. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.
See you, everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye.